Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being here, I really appreciate it. So let's dive right in. Today we are going to talk about Dialogflow fulfillment. Firstly, if you don't know what Dialogflow is, let me just give you a brief overview about it. Dialogflow is a Google Cloud product. It is basically a natural language understanding platform. It is used to design and develop chatbots, which means the user can enter a text and Dialogflow will respond according to the input. Like for example, if the user says hi, you can program Dialogflow to say hello, how can I help you back? But sometimes, like for example, if you are taking input about a user, like if you are asking for his or her email ID, you would want to ideally store that information in your database, right? That is exactly where Dialogflow fulfillment comes in. Using Dialogflow fulfillment, you can basically set up a post endpoint that Dialogflow will call every time that particular intent is called. So let's start with first creating an agent here. So you create an agent, let's give it a name. Let's say test agent. And I'm just going to say create a new Google project. Yeah, it cannot have white spaces. And yeah, we'll just create it, right? Okay, so you can see the test agent has been created here, and this is how it looks in the first place. So now these are intents. Like what is an intent? Basically, in simple words, uh, it is just the way, like it is just the programming of how Dialogflow responds to the user's messages, right? So for example, these are training phrases. So anything that the user types, so like if the user types any of these training phrases, this is the intent that will be called. And then you can set up the text responses. So like hi, how are you doing? All of these text responses, you can set up like Dialogflow will pick any of these and respond back to the user. Now what we want to do is, once this is done, right, like once the response has been sent, we want to enable a webhook call, right? That this intent is being sent, this intent is detected, so now we want to call the webhook, and then based on that we want to send the response. So that is what we want to do. We'll just use this default welcome intent for now, but you just need to like enable this checkbox here and then save it. So that's done. Now the next thing that we want to look at is fulfillment, right? So how does this work? This is the webhook. You just need to enable this, and then it will ask you for a URL. So as like you can see what is written here. So your web service will receive a post request. So all we need to do is to set up a post endpoint which Dialogflow can call, and then we can use the request and all the parameters and everything that we want from the intent, and use that in our webhook in a post endpoint and modify the response according to that. Correct? So now basically let's just try setting up like a post endpoint that Dialogflow can call. To do this, let's move to the terminal. I'm just creating a new directory, and then once we go there, we'll initialize a node project. Yeah, the project is initialized. Now we'll install all the requirements that I need. I'm using TypeScript for this project, but basically you can use any project, any backend service that you like, right? Like it just needs to be an HTTPS URL. That's it. And it needs to be a post endpoint. Okay, so now it's downloading this. And we also download the dev dependency. Now if I open this in Visual Studio Code, this is how it looks. Yeah, it has the node modules and the package files. Now I'll just quickly create a tsconfig.json file. .json file. I created this manually, but you can also like just do tsc in it and this will be created. Okay, so now let's write our main server.ts file. Yeah, so this is our server file. This is just like a get endpoint for demo purposes, and this is the post endpoint that we're going to use as the webhook, and this is just to run it locally. Now let's just edit the package.json file. Okay, now let's try running this locally. So you would say npm run build. See that there's a dist folder here with server.js file, correct? Now what we want to do is run this. Okay, so now let's run the server. So that we know this .js, and now our server is running at port 3000. We can just quickly check it. And this returns the get endpoint, and if we try to do the post endpoint, it sends hello from the webhook. Now this is great, but what we really want to do is to have an HTTPS endpoint, and that is pretty easy when you're using nodejs. So all you need to do is install ngrok. Library has been installed. So now the next step is to again let's just run this. So when you run this, you just open a new terminal, and what you do is you just type this command. This library basically does the work of forwarding. You will see it right now. So whatever is like the HTTP endpoint and whatever is running at localhost 3000, it will forward it to an HTTPS endpoint. So let's see. So now you can see that this basically it forwards this URL to this URL. So now you have an HTTPS endpoint, correct? And one more thing, like the first time when you go on this URL, it will tell you, like if it is like the first time that you're going in that URL, it will tell you to like create an account and do this multi-factor authentication, which basically you can use any of these apps and they will give you a code which you can like just use that. So once you create an account on this website, it will link you to like how you can use it, and it will give you all the setup and installation commands. The most important thing is to like copy this auth token, and once you just like have this auth token, you just need to run it in your terminal. So you can paste it here. So it says auth token saved to configuration file. So now you can use it as much as you like. Now when I do HTTP 3000, this will work, right? This will forward this localhost URL to this HTTPS URL. And now that's all we needed. So you can now just like copy this URL. And now to set this up in Dialogflow, let's see how we can set this up. So under the webhook tab which we were in before, we'll just paste this URL and with the exact post endpoint that we need. Right now we're not doing any authentication or headers or anything, so we don't need to worry about that. But this will basically be our URL for the webhook. Now let's save it. Also just like make sure that you have the fulfillment enabled here, right? Like this is important, otherwise it won't work. Now let's try running this, right? So you go to integrations and you choose web demo, and you just like enable this and then go to this URL. This is the easy way for you to demo your app. just in case if you want to use it. So like as you can see, like this was our Dialogflow agent. The intent that we are trying to use is this one, where we have set up the the webhook call. So we'll just use one of these messages. Let's say we say hey. Let's say if the user says hey, Dialogflow will give this response. As you can see, this is one of the text responses that Dialogflow can give, right? Now let's look at what our console.log looks like. So this is what you can see, like this post endpoint was called and the status was 200 and it was okay. So this is what happens because this URL was called with this post endpoint. Yeah. Now let's try running it again. Perfect. So let's see. Okay, so now you can see the request.body here. I would just like to, so this is basically how you use Dialogflow fulfillment. This is how the input from Dialogflow looks, and then you can use the information to handle data in your database. So this is the response ID. The query result is an object. The query text is what the user types in. Action, it's important because this action is how you can like differentiate between intents. And then the user is also allowed to enter some parameters, so that we can talk about, like your front end. If your front end is triggering Dialogflow, it can send some parameters when you are using Dialogflow APIs, right? And the fulfillment text is what is the text that Dialogflow sends back to the user. And fulfillment messages, like basically it has like text and payload which you can set custom. And output context is basically for any parameters that the Dialogflow needs to send back to the front end or to the user, right? And this is the intent which got selected. And yeah, so that's everything that you need to know about Dialogflow fulfillment. Okay, so thank you so much for being here and viewing this video till the end. I hope to bring a lot more content like this, so please subscribe to my channel, and see you next time. Thank you.